So ladies and gentlemen, we have a great panel coming up next, led by David Verklin. I'd like to invite the panelists up here to come up while we talk for a moment. So for many of you know David Verklin. David obviously has recently led the Canoe Ventures initiative. Prior to that, obviously, he was the leader at Carat and Aegis Media and Riney. And David is an extraordinary moderator for panels. Last year, we let him loose on a bunch of CEOs at the agencies, and he had them dancing. And so we thought we'd mix it up this year and let him have at it with some of our clients. And so I am pleased and thrilled to invite David up to the stage. And David Verklin, here we go.
Thanks, Mike. Here we go. Thank you, Mike. Hello, everybody. It's exciting to see this this conference get to be this size, and the excitement that we're going to feel in the next hour, I hope will be contagious. So anyway, it's great to see you all, and thank you so much for having me back. Let me start by introducing my panel, and we'll talk a little bit about the format of what we're going to do here today. Some of you have seen me moderate before, and we'll try to make this fast-paced and high energy, and most of all entertain you as well as inform you, while also hopefully you'll get to know these panelists a little bit as human beings as well as marketers and advertising experts. So with that, if I could ask you to give a round of applause for James Cordero. James is the Senior Director of Marketing at Walmart. Next, a big DPAA round of applause for Pete Krainik. Pete is the founder and CEO of the CMO Club. Welcome, Pete Krainik. Next, Ben Pagel. Ben is an assistant brand manager with Energizer Personal Care, and will be telling some interesting stories today about his own experiences with digital place-based. Please welcome Ben Pagel. This next young man I've known for I think it's been 15 years, Steve Palmisano. Steve is the founder of AdElevate, and he's the former SVP of Marketing Services at Pfizer Consumer Healthcare. Please, a round of applause for Steve Palmisano. And I love this lady's name. Kirti Srikant is the Assistant VP of Advertising and Brand Marketing at Oppenheimer Funds. Has really been an advocate for digital place-based. You'll learn more about it in a few minutes. Please welcome Kirti Srikant. Okay, welcome panelists. How's everybody doing today?
Good. Tremendous.
Good. Here's the way this panel is going to work. I'll be asking questions and directing some questions to the panelists, but in front of you, you'll see some cards. What I'd love to do is get you involved in this panel. We have some real experts and some real case studies to talk about here today. If you have a question that you would love me to ask to a panelist, write it down on a card, hold it up like this, and somebody from staff will come grab it and bring it up to me. Ask as many questions as you want. I'll feather the questions in as we go through this panel. So if you want to participate and have me ask a question to a particular panelist or to all the panelists, grab a card, hold it up, and staff will bring it up to me, and we'll make sure we get as many questions answered today as possible. All right. Let's begin. We have so much to cover here today, ladies and gentlemen. James, I'm going to pick on you because you're from Walmart, and you have an incredible track record of success in this space. If you think about, I actually was at one time on the board of what was then called PRN, it then became Walmart TV, and now it's the Walmart Smart Network, correct?
Yep.
Talk a little bit about what you do at Walmart, and not too much about that, a little bit, tell us a little bit about that, but tell us more about Walmart TV. Why has Walmart TV been such a success? Is it because of your ability to twist people's arms and force them to advertise on that network? Why are you so successful with this network?
No. So I work for Walmart. I run the Smart Network and also am part of the corporate marketing group. So our job is to, talk with our customers, advertise to our customers. And when I look at the Smart Network, as you said, it started a number of years ago. And we named it the Smart Network when we started to do things that were pretty cool, when we could trigger ads into specific stores under certain conditions, which is what digital place-based advertising can do. Why I would say that we're successful, need to be able to be efficient and effective. So we measure every campaign. We know when things work, when they don't work, and when they don't work, we'll let you know, and we'll let you know how we could change that. So again, it doesn't mean that we're perfect. It doesn't mean that every campaign necessarily works. But for our network, we need to make sure that it aligns to our corporate mission. So as Walmart, we save money. We help people save money so they can live better. When I look at the network, it's the optimal in-store conversion tool. So we can drive a lot of traffic to our stores based on our pricing, based on our messaging. And once we have you in the store, our network should be able to help you move around. We drive item lift for our advertisers, but then it's my job to make sure that we've got corporate messaging out there to help move people around the store and help you buy more stuff.
Give this audience some sense of scale, though, of your platform. How many screens do you have? Just to do some quick statistics on the Walmart Smart Network.
Sure, we're in 1,563 stores with the Smart Network, but then we have a TV wall in over 3,000 stores. Over 20,000 screens, 140 million shoppers a week. So when you start calculating impressions and however you want to calculate it, we'd probably be about the 5th largest network in the country. But in our minds, again, it may not be what you'd want to hear, but advertising for me comes secondary. What I need to make sure that we do is that we help drive sales in the box for our advertisers and for us. If we do that, advertising follows. When you flip that and you emphasize the advertising model first, I think we get into trouble. Because again, advertising follows effective mediums and efficient mediums. So we need to make sure that that's what we deliver on, and then as far as I'm concerned, everything else will follow.
Fantastic. We're going to circle back to you. Lots of questions to you. Let's move next to you, Pete. I think, first of all, tell us a little bit about the CMO Club and the story of you, how you started it. You're the founder of it. And then I think one of the questions I think we're interested in you is to talk about the CMO perspective about the role of television, and how does TV, the role of traditional TV, fit in the context of digital place-based? Is this from a CMO's perspective? Is this the kids' table for television, or is this medium become a mainstream part of the CMO marketing mix? So talk a little bit about the CMO Club, and then talk a little bit about where you see the role of TV and digital place-based.
Okay, sure. So CMO Club, I've been very fortunate. I worked at M&M's for 15 years, IT, sales, e-business, marketing. Was a CMO DoubleClick back, I think, 2003 to 2005, and then was head of marketing at Avaya till about 5 years ago. And I went to, I think, 2 or 3 really lousy CMO events in a row. And those that are CMOs in the room know what I'm talking about, where it's basic marketing, people following you to the bathroom to try to sell you something, et cetera. So just started hosting dinners on the side 4.5, 5 years ago. And what started as a labor of love turned into an organization. Now we have 600 CMOs, getting about 30, 40 a month. And it just really is closed, private community heads of marketing to help each other. So that's really the background.
When 600 CMOs get together, who picks up the check? No, just kidding.
They do.
Go ahead,
They
please.
think I do, but they do. Anyway, so that's the background of that. It's very interesting about this whole issue of TV, other things. It still is interesting to me as I host these dinners. We host dinners in 16, 20 cities, et cetera. The amount of CMOs that still look at TV as a way of moving the dial. And they still say, hey, if I need to do something, I'll heavy up on this, et cetera. But what's happening is, so there's a subset of CMOs that are still in that mindset. But what's also happening, there's a lot of pressure. CMOs have to, to lead the growth agenda, to get more out of their media mix, et cetera. So the other, I don't know if it's half, but another large percentage now, the light is starting to go on and say, I've got to look at other alternatives. And they're getting pressure from their CEO, their board, to do something different. They can't come in with the same kind of plan next year. So that's really driving a lot of that change to look. So are they necessary here yet? 100% no. But are they interested to finding something new? Yes. And I think that's a real step in the right direction.
Got it.
That makes sense.
Don't get nervous, guys. I'm not going to go in order here. We're going to go to you next, Kirti. Talk a little bit about what you do at Oppenheimer, But more important, talk a little bit. I know the story of you have been a major advocate of this media platform, of digital place-based within Oppenheimer. You really changed the game within your company to use this medium. You know, you're a hero to a bunch of people out here. Talk a little bit about how you made that decision, and talk a lot about targeting. Right, we're in a conference about context matters. You have a very upscale, very narrow audience you're trying to talk about. How do you use an out-of-home medium and be able to rationalize it from a targeting perspective?
Sure. So first off, nothing is possible alone. It took a lot of people internally to get out of home on our plate. But let me give some background on who I am. I joined Oppenheimer Funds a little over 2 years ago at a really pivotal point because we had a new CMO who basically joined the firm and wanted to change how we market and how we reach our audience and who we even go after and what's the best way to do it. So I came in to basically oversee our brand marketing and advertising efforts. And it was also a point right after and during the challenge that the financial services industry faced, which is the recession. And we had very streamlined budgets in which to continue advertising and getting our brand out there. And so we decided to focus more on digital, just as a whole, and we actually also pulled from television because we felt, how could we be out there with television advertising, tooting our horn when the economy is falling apart? And
you're not on traditional television anymore.
And we have not done television since 2008.
But yet you are in this medium.
And we are in this medium, and we see a lot of value in it. For the reason is, we've decided to focus more on reaching the right audience with the right message. And so we found that digital, and specifically digital place-based medium like elevators and whatnot that are in specific buildings that target our audience is the best place for us to build brand awareness. I'm not saying it replaced TV. We would love to be in television again at some point, but based on what's available to us, we wanted to maximize the opportunity and appear like we're everywhere. And it's been really, really huge for us. We ran a test with an initial campaign back in 2010, and then we utilized that to kind of build out a broader scale program and really use it to impact our bottom line results.
Great. Thank you so much. We'll circle back with you. Steve, you're going to be last, so Ben, you're next. I want you to give us, tell us a little bit about what you do and a little bit of background about your involvement with digital place-based. But I also want you to talk about the process, right? I mean, you have agencies, and you know these people out here are trying to inform guys like you and brand managers at your company about the opportunities here. What process, what advice can you give to these folks who are trying to get in to see guys like you, who are trying to sell these new platforms, and how do they do it? What's the best path? So talk a little bit about what you do, a little bit of experience with the media form, but talk about process for a second. How do you sell this stuff to guys like you?
I am currently assistant brand manager, and I'm an aspiring member of the CMO club sometime down the line, so we'll stay in touch. So I work on the Playtex feminine care business, the self-proclaimed hairiest guy in feminine care, and I've been doing that for about 2.5 years, and I have a lot of experience in the interacting with the sales function, but I have really dipped my toe into the waters of digital place-based just with the one program, but I've repeated it several times. Any of you who were here last year, I gave a bit of the recap of the results, and also in March in Vegas. We did, for the Playtex Sport brand, we worked with Zoom Media for their fitness network, and we were able to reach a light TV viewer with our TV creative in a place where they, I believe it was spent an average of 56 minutes in front of the screens. And we were able to do a surround sound program with the digital play space with some static in the locker rooms, as well as couponing and sampling, and did some heavy testing and found out we really did move the needle. So we became believers for that specific program. We knew who our very specific target was. We knew we weren't reaching them with other media, and we were able to find a network to directly target them and get in front of them for many impressions. It worked. The company loved it. I think we've done it about 3 times for that program. We still are struggling a little bit, specifically in feminine care. You guys can probably understand some of the complexities of when can you even talk about it, and where can you target something that all women need. So we still have some challenges there from a feminine care perspective. As a total company, Energizer Personal Care owns many brands. I think we're opening up to it more. We are also opening up more as our media agency is opening up to it more.
Did this come through your corporate advertising management operation? Did this come through your brand planning team? Did this come, the idea, or did this come from directly from one of a sales guy from a platform managing to get to you directly?
Yep, a sales guy got to my boss. She brought the program to me and said, I don't know if you want to do anything
So
about it.
sales guy, I want to go slow. You went a little fast there. Sales guy goes to your boss.
Yeah. So I don't actually know how that interaction went, but she was approached, and she saw there was opportunity and passed
She
it along
told
to
you,
me.
take a look at this.
Forwarded it on, and that happens a lot. I was actually able to sell it in under a sampling budget.
Well, that's interesting. Did you hear that?
It is.
Sampling budget.
So the reality is, as an assistant brand manager,
For tampons.
if it doesn't make it onto the media plan that is presented by the media agency, it's not. I mean, I'm not getting it in the plan for the most part, or I'm not going to get to spend media dollars on it. I snuck it in as a sampling program. So it was a surround sound program, and there were samples involved, but it was heavily based in digital place-based.
You are a god to these people out here. That's fantastic.
Because of the success, we are moving it to part of the recommendation. We're working on a new project. Our media agency brought us forth the recommendation, and because of our
Who is your media agency?
Media Edge.
Media Edge.
Because of our experiences with Zoom in the past, they've now made it on in another context, on another project, onto the recommendation. Oh, we saw how well this worked last time. Now we think that there is a value to including them in the traditional television, print, digital buy.
All right, let's move now. Thank you so much for that. We'll circle back to you for a bunch of stuff here today. Let's move to you, Steve. Steve, talk a little bit about AdElevate, a little bit about that, the background of your current role, but also talk about your role within Pfizer Consumer Healthcare. You were really an advocate in this space, in particularly targeting patients in doctors' offices, right? And talk a little bit about that. But the angle I'd like you to talk also about is the creative side of this. When you were at Pfizer, you had a massive advertising budget, almost $1 billion, huge advertiser on television. And then you think about consumer healthcare, lots of TV. Is TV creative the right creative for this platform, or is it the same creative that we put on video online? Or are you asking folks out here to create special creative just for these platforms? We're talking about context matters. Talk a bit about the creative aspects of this medium, but tell us a little bit about yourself before.
So first of all, AdElevate leverages what I've done throughout my entire career working, driving media and digital marketing teams on the inside of a client. It primarily focuses on companies that do not have senior level media people within their organization, and is also working with selling media companies and their selling materials and positioning for the advertiser and marketing community. So that's pretty much what I've been doing in the last year.
So you help salespeople and sales organizations refine their sales pitches to call on big agency types.
Clients and agencies, as well as help advertisers who don't have senior level internal media advice to facilitate driving sharp questions to agencies to come up with optimal media solutions in their plans, because that's a void for those types of organizations. So as it relates to the creative question that you asked, I think the answer is you can certainly use video, television that you've created for these environments, but I would say there's a capital BUT after that. And it's highly dependent on the environment. So if you're looking at an environment where the audience is truly captive, and some of the vehicles that are part of the DPAA and digital place-based are, there's really an opportunity to take that communication that's built for television, where you've got a confined time frame, and go much further. because the audience is there, the context is right, and you can take that messaging deeper, probably a lot like the custom messaging that occurs in the smart network at Walmart. It's not always just slap a TV commercial in that environment because it's a different environment. In other environments where the audience is less captive, I think some of the more traditional out-of-home creative rules apply, in which you're fighting for attention, and they may not be completely locked in on a very linear messaging story. So I think sometimes the advertising has to work more like traditional out-of-home, where it's just
Got it.
you know, popping that message. Of course, you've got sight, sound, and motion working with you that traditional out-of-home doesn't. So I think it really varies depending on the vehicle and what you're trying to do.
Got it. I want to stick with the creative area for a couple of other panelists for a second. James, you next. What's the answer to this? When somebody wants to be on the smart network, do they have to create custom-made creative to really optimize impact and ROI if they want to use your network, or can they take the ads that they're running online, or for that matter, how does about the existing 30-second TV commercial in a media form where sound is challenged?
Yeah, we've done it all. And what I would say is it really depends, and we would advise you on what we think is going to work best. So on our TV wall, a 30-second commercial or 15-second commercial can work just fine. You're in an in-store environment, so depending on what the topic could be, if it's a video game, we might ask you to take certain scenes out just because it may be a little too violent for our customer base. We'll get complaints on just about everything. So we need to make sure that we keep our shopping environment entertaining and engaging. We're doing a campaign with Dove right now where we're basically working with them where they have their current campaign, pieces of it. They knew they were going to do advertising on the smart network, so we worked with them to use some of their creative assets already, which their whole campaign about self-esteem for women, right up our alley. We love the product that we're selling. So we're using some of their assets, and then there are other times where it's got to be custom creative. What we've got to make sure, and what advertisers need to make sure, is that you're talking to a shopper, not a consumer sitting at home or on their tablet or on their phone. You are talking to a shopper. We need to make sure that there's a call to action. We're there to help you sell stuff. And if we don't do that, then we're not basically doing our job for you.
The questions are coming in rapidly from all of you. I think you have no faith that I'll be able to ask enough questions. So I will try to get as many of these in. We have one that's just come in for you, James, so if you can answer this quickly. Are there specific examples of purchase intent or sales lifts and that you can talk about? And I think what's most interesting, do you have a specific, what brands and categories, do you have any research that shows which brands or indoor categories have had the most impact with the Walmart Smart Network?
We have a number of screens in the store, so I'll start with the end cap screens, very effective. Think about them as being a digital place-based salesperson for you. And we've done great things with recipes, so we sell multiple products. So something coming up for a Super Bowl would be a X recipe to get things ready for your Super Bowl party. Phenomenal success, triple-digit types of lifts. When you think about
triple-digit.
Yes. When you think about our other screens, and that was just for best case scenario. That would be one. So on average,
digit.
Yeah,
that's a good scenario.
Yeah, on average for the end caps, it's about 65%, but the other screens are the ones that would be sold, by our agency because they're not as linked to the merchandising. Those you get about a 4 or 5% lift, which is very respectable for the amount of money that actually you pay for. And on those, again, it depends on what is going on. You want it to be relevant for that season. We've done some great things with cough, cold, and flu. We've done some great things for food. And the way I took my role when I started a year ago is that I said, we need to make sure that we help drive the box. So driving conversion, that means I don't have screens over in tire and lube. I don't have screens over in automotive. I don't have screens somewhere else. Our job is to help move people around the store. And that way we can make sure that we're fulfilling our mission for Walmart. And we've been successful in doing some of that. Some cases, I would say with automotive, we've had more success than with others. But those are things that we learn with the creative that we're putting on air.
Got it. We have a bunch of questions that have come in. I think, Kirti, I'm going to go to you. People are asking a bit about how you're tracking and measuring the platforms. Talk a bit about that. Are you measuring brand awareness and image, or just bottom line leads and sales? What are the metrics of success for Oppenheimer in this media type?
Sure. I mean, specifically related to DPAA, we actually did a pre and post campaign study to measure our
Awareness.
brand awareness study, as well as the likelihood to recommend that the fund that we were promoting at the time when we did the out-of-home test. And so we've definitely internally we have to manage expectations that not everything can be measured in the same way. And so we've actually kind of approached it internally as, each type of effort has its own set of KPIs. And so for out of home, it's about increasing our brand awareness and increasing their intent to recommend our fund when a financial advisor sits down with his investor client. So we know that we want to impact them by influencing their decision-making power, and that's how we measure the efficacy of this effort.
Got it. I'll come back on a couple of that. Although I want to go to you next, Pete. There's a question that's come in that I think is really a bit of kind of anthemic to the issue that so many digital place-based entrepreneurs and advocates are facing, which is, why is this media type being held to a different standard? Right? I mean, if you look at video, right? Video is everywhere. We have TV kind of at the top of the mountain. We have, the metrics on TV. We have to be very kind. We have the folks from Nielsen out front. They've built a wonderful business. But if you just think about a Nielsen rating as the metric for television, why are these poor folks being held to such a different standard by CMOs when it's not like the TV is providing any particular metrics on ROI other than a rating number? Talk for a second, why are CMOs in general seemingly reluctant to innovate with even a portion of their video dollars in platforms like this?
So I don't think that they're really holding it to a different standard. I think that they're being held to a different standard from even 3 to 5 years ago. So the pressure's on them for ROI, to lead the growth agenda, to move from being the marketing expert to this officer in the company. So I think a lot of it is not, and it's really impacting TV as well. I don't think it's let's identify this media and this has to be a different standard. I think that's one piece.
So you would say this media form is not being held to a different standard versus other video delivery systems?
From the CMO's perspective in general. The second piece, though, is this blind spot. And that is, I think CMOs are up here running these large businesses and getting that pressure from their CEO and their board and trying to drive growth and think about all these different things that are going on. And I'm not sure all the agencies, and then you guys tell me if you disagree, but I don't, from what I'm hearing at the dinners, I don't think it's being positioned necessarily every time as an answer that they should be thinking about. So they're thinking about how they want to drive, a little different with retail, when you're right there, but some of these other CMOs. So I think it's really more a blind spot. And my advice would be to really make sure from an agency and then the network perspective, et cetera, to make sure these things are being, part of the mix.
Palmisano, you used to be a media planner, you guys used to recommend this, and then you became a client. What do you mean? Do you think it's being held to a different standard?
Modestly, but certainly I don't think it's at the CMO level at all. I think the decisions often are just it's in a plan and it's not gobbling up an entire budget. CMO is not going to knock that off the plan unless they're completely risk-averse.
So the real villain in the room is some poor assistant media planner? Is that what you're telling me?
I think there's a couple of audiences. I think there's a couple of audiences. I think there can be brand management teams that are somewhat risk averse, and if they don't think they can dot all the I's and cross all the T's in terms of back-end measurement, that there's a reluctance to move it forward based on the pressure that you were just talking about. And then I think on the agency side, it really, the pressure is, I believe, on the media planner to define what the role of a smart digital place-based vehicle, how it can play a smart role in a media plan. And frankly, if it is got a sharp targeting role, and it's priced reasonable, and it's not taking up a lot of the budget, and there's some insight how you can begin the measurement journey to prove that it works, sometimes not all the way at the ROI level, but to the next step. I don't think it's an incredibly hard sell, but all of those things have to happen, and they don't always happen from both ends.
I hear you. I guess I'm going to kind of follow up with that now with you, Ben, which is, you mentioned you have a big media agency, right, that's helping you every day. Pay them a modest fee, I'm sure, to help manage your business. Who do these folks call on at Media Edge? Are they supposed to call on the out-of-home department, right? Or is that who they go call on? Or do they call on the television group, since that's where the budget is? Or are they supposed to maybe go to the internet group, who's a little bit maybe, in their view, a little bit more open-minded? Or do they blow all those people off like what's happened at your place and go to your boss? So where does the media agency fit into all this stuff?
I don't think I can recommend that last one. I'd like to keep my job. Well, that is a very solid question, and I think some of that will require how do the agencies view it as well. I think traditionally it's been brought to us as out of home.
Out-of-home.
I know in this context, there has been a lot of discussion as to whether it is considered another form of television or another form of digital, but it really is treated from the brand side as a form of out of home.
Really? Kirti, you're shaking your head. Is that the way you see it? So you don't see this as television. You see this as more like an outdoor billboard.
We approach it as an out-of-home opportunity. So I, even coming here to speak, and it's called digital place-based advertising, I'm like, isn't that out of home? I'm like, there's out-of-home traditional formats, there's digital place formats in the out-of-home landscape, but from looking at things from a holistic media planning aspect, we consider it out-of-home.
I want to push off on that for a second, James. I mean, this out of home, that's a picture on a stick. You know, I mean, we've been drawing woolly out of home since woolly mammoths on the sides of caves in France, right? I mean, is this really that's the way you want these folks to look at Smart Network as an out of home medium? It's not television.
I mean, for me, it's in-store advertising, but I try to simplify things as much as possible. So we're all going to have a little bit of a different answer, and I think where we need help from the industry, where we need help from Nielsen and others, is getting to that common currency and common measurement. Because at the end of the day, if I'm running a brand like I used to when I was at a CPG company, it would be, here's my media dollars, here's my consumer promotion dollars, where do I want to place bets and where am I going to drive volume? And you took money out of a sampling budget to actually fund this. So it wasn't necessarily a media recommendation. So kudos to you for saying, okay, hey, here's one way that I can get something in that makes sense for my business. Why? Because it's meeting the objectives that you have. Awesome. When I first started on the business, I was asked, okay, so, where do we go after? Do we try to get shopper marketing budgets, or do we go after agency dollars? And I didn't know how to answer. And, quite honestly, we go after both budgets, but at the end of the day, what's more important to me is this a medium that works for our clients, that works for Walmart, and does it drive volume, and does it drive sales? Because if it does, I don't care where the dollars come from. And I'll sell to agencies, I'll sell to the shopper marketers because I have to. And I'll take money from out of home, I'll take money from anywhere. But we
do
at Walmart.
Do you share data? So if an advertiser...
Every campaign gets measured, every campaign gets their results.
With Walmart sales data?
Yeah. Now, what we do internally, so again, I work for corporate marketing, so we have data, we have our own MMM data that basically says, okay, this is what we get from TV, this is what we get from digital, this is what we get from our in-store efforts. We look at that and we evaluate that annually to make decisions. So there's a combination of things. Now, for each advertiser, we share their data. We give them their own data.
Got it. Pete, let's go back to you. I believe you've just finished a study, haven't you, that you've done some work, and it's really focused on CMOs' decisions about digital, right, about how their plans are to use digital. Now, we have some people on the panel that say that this isn't digital at all, it's out of home, but what's your...
Never mind.
Give us a top line of the research you've just done about what CMOs are saying about their digital spend going forward.
Sure. So real quick, I was in Cannes back in June or whatever, and ran into Gary McGuire, RMG, I think he's here at Networks. We were chatting, about this whole area, and I was sharing about some of the questions I was hearing from CMOs about their spend for next year. So we put together a quick survey, and we saw I think 170 CMOs in the club responded, and they were questions around their intentions, pressures they're getting, et cetera. So 3 or 4 top-line results. 89% and about 60% of the respondents were billion-dollar brands. So these were not, Eileen.com or something. These were like bigger things. So we had, I think, 89% of the respondents said they were under significant pressure from their board or their CEO to look at new media opportunities, to actually take that next level down and look at new opportunities. 71% said that they actually have reached out to they're reaching out as they talk about 2013 planning to their agencies, media houses, et cetera, on looking at new alternatives. And then 61% actually said they wanted to take a look at this area for 2013, which was double the year before.
That's encouraging.
So I think just one other comment to add to that, and that is I think that from what I've seen from the dinners and talking to CMOs, et cetera, if it's a good idea and they hear about it and they get it, they will spend the money. I really think it's an issue of positioning it the right way and or making sure they hear about it.
Got it. Let's move to a little bit of a lightning round here, guys. I'm going to ask you a question. I'm looking for a potentially no more than a one-sentence answer or a one-word answer. Let's get to know each of you as a little bit about you as human beings a bit. I'll start with you at the far end, Kirti. How many emails do you get a day?
Oh, probably 500 to 600.
500 to 600 emails a day. Wow. Stephen, how many emails do you get a day?
Hundreds. Although, if I'm not beating the bush, it could be 0.
All right. How about you?
Well, 200 to 300, better than 0, but a little less popular than 0.
Pete, how many emails do you get a day?
501? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Probably 300.
James, how many emails do you get a day?
Hundreds.
Hundreds. Yeah. And next, how many meetings do you go to a day, James?
I try to avoid meetings as much as possible, but I probably end up with 3 or 4 a day.
Gotcha. How about you? How many meetings you go to a day?
Physical meetings or
Yes.
calls? Just physical
Physical.
meetings? Maybe 2 or 3. But I'm in a
Ben.
different situation.
6, 7, probably.
6, 7 meetings a day on top of what? 300 emails?
Yep.
I don't know when you get anything done. Okay, Steve, how many meetings you go to today?
Oh, a couple days a week, I'll do about 3 each day, and then the rest of them are via phone working.
Kirti, how many meetings you go to a day?
6 to 8 a day.
6 to 8. Do you get, Kirti, you get text messages related to work?
Yes,
So people can text you if they want to, work-related texts.
unfortunately.
How about you, Steve? Work-related texts?
Only on the fly, not a ton.
Ben, work-related texts?
Sure do.
Lots of work-related texts.
Not a lot.
144 characters is more than enough to communicate with you.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
How
I'm
about you,
sorry.
Pete?
Yes, absolutely.
And James, you get work-related texts?
Yes.
Boatload.
All right, James, what's the last book you read?
I'm Hispanic. La Fiesta del Chivo, so the Feast of the Goat, Mario Vargas Llosa. He's a Nobel laureate from Peru. So
What'd you learn?
It's a very interesting book, actually, based in some reality in the Dominican Republic. So what an authoritarian regime actually can do to people and the decisions that those people in that circle make and how it impacts.
Is it only in Spanish?
How it impacts a country. I don't know, but he has several books that have been, translated into English as well. So
Interesting. Interesting. What's the last book you read?
16-year-old girl named Talia Lemon. Someone recommended. She's started some random kid. His name's some company she started. As a 10-year-old, she raised something like $12 million for charity. It's just amazing.
What's the name of the book?
Person. I knew you were going to ask me that. I can't remember it.
So you don't know the name
Talia
of the book
Lemon,
or the author?
L-E-M-A-N. No, Talia Lemon, L-E-M-A-N.
okay.
It's just a very inspiring book.
Fantastic. Ben, last book you read?
I wish I could say something interesting, but when I go on the train, I bring something light, and the train broke down today. So I was reading On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Ian Fleming. Very good.
Original James
He
Bond.
actually has it
Pocket
with
size. Paperback. Very good.
It's
Gotta be pocket sized, but I'm reading on the train.
That's impressive. Good for you, dude. How about you, Steve? Last book you read?
The Killing of Lincoln.
Ah,
It was
interesting.
great
How
book.
was that?
It was great.
I liked
a lot
it,
of
yeah.
history that I had no idea occurred, conspiracy theories,
book.
and
And
fascinating.
Kirti, last book you read?
I am not as interesting as them. Mine is Llama Llama, Mrs. Mama, all the series.
Say it again?
Llama
Shades of
Llama,
Grey?
Mrs. Mama. I have a 3-year-old, so all my reading time is dedicated to 3-year-old novels.
All right, very good. Let's get back to the panel. We'll do one more lightning round, I think, before the end. We've got a few minutes left.
We failed on that one.
Let's go back to you, Ben. Talk a little bit about results. Can you attribute so many of the questions that have come up from the audience are about results? You know, here's a question: is it really only about ROI and sales lift? What's your metrics for success at the point of delivery? Is it brand awareness? Is it brand experience? People seem to be really interested in wanting to understand the metrics. So how do you define success metrics for digital place-based video?
Sure. The beginning disclaimer is really going to matter on the program as to what your goals are going to be. For myself, working on feminine care, it's a well-known category. I mean, people are aware of the brand. And so when I was investing the company's dollars and then justifying to the company why I was investing the dollars, it really did come down to sales lift. It came down to an ROI. Like Kirti, we did a pre and post, and we went all the way to have you made a purchase of this product since you saw the advertisement, and we were able to still show significant positive ROI from that. So we were able to again resell.
And you could get attribution to the digital place-based platform within that kind of awareness measurement.
Yep. So we were able to identify which of the elements of the program they had or had not seen, which ones they remembered rather, and then sort of the change from the control group of how they viewed the brand, whether they were going to buy it, and whether they actually had bought it. And that last metric, we were able to say we did sell enough that we made our money back and more. So I think the reality is, when you talk about is it held to a different standard, I think it's just that it has a bigger hurdle to get onto the media plan. If you spend all of your money on television and you don't move the needle quite as much as you wanted, as a brand manager, it's understandable. You're not going to get the axe coming down because you spent on TV, because people trust TV. It is a bit of a new standard because digital place-based is new. If it's not hitting the higher hurdle of ROI, then it comes under question. Why did you choose this over something more standard?
Gotcha. Kirti, difficult question for you.
Oh, great.
You ready? And this came from the audience, and I'm going to urge you to try to answer this as quickly as you can, because you could go long on this. But it's an interesting question, and I'll ask it directly from the card. You need to reach affluent consumers, right? How do you determine and make a decision between whether you want, with a limited budget, you want to use Fortune magazine, CNBC, elevators, or gyms?
That's a great question. Thank you for that. So we actually have approached our media strategy as high impact and niche target. And so what I mean by that is all of them are actually important, the gym being the least important, because I don't know if I want to talk to people about their investment strategy while they're sweating at a treadmill. But it's about hitting them when their mind can't be distracted by anything else. And so that's where elevators have become really important for us, that they are a captive audience. Like, you don't want to look at the guy next to you, you don't want to look at the ceiling, but you can see that screen, and we could just subliminally penetrate your mind with our messaging. And so it's become really important for us. And Fortune magazine and CNBC, there are ways to leverage their various channels, because there's the online aspect as well as the actual physical magazine versus television. And unfortunately, television's not on the docket for us right now, because we either do it right or we don't do it. And so that's why CNBC has been great for us personally. I'm just speaking even very openly, that from a digital and online aspect, because we can actually measure the efficacy of it and get them engaged with the content that we have to offer.
Got it. Thank you so much. That was a tough question, directed, right at you. Let's move next. Steve, why don't you take a question that also has come in from the audience, which is about brand and content. Okay, there's so many different ways to use video these days, right? We're seeing, there's a video, we could argue video is the most exciting part of the advertising business. Video on the web, video on the phone, video on TV. The number one one of the number one rated shows on television is on AMC, right? So we're seeing explosive creativity everywhere. Does long form video and does branded content fit into this platform at all in your mind?
I think it certainly can, and again, getting back to the idea that a lot of these delivery vehicles have a very captive audience, I think that's an enabler to go longer. Now, there's a price attached to, then running longer form communications, but that might be a great strategy. You've got someone right where you want them, and if you could tell them a bigger story and a more full story, it might get you, a lot further in terms of moving them to where you want to move them. So I think it's a great opportunity in highly captive environments.
Let's go to you, James. A difficult question. You've put all this money into creating an in-store platform, but mobile is just emerging as a video delivery system. I talked to my friends at Procter & Gamble. They're pretty excited about the first moment of truth and what takes place in store. Talk about mobile. I mean, couldn't mobile actually become a delivery system of brand messages at the point of purchase that's even more effective than the smart network? Where does mobile fit into Walmart's strategy for video delivery in stores?
It's very important. And now, will it replace it? That part I don't know, but time will tell. It's the same conversation that, well, maybe not the same conversation that we have with TV. It's like, is TV going away? Not anytime soon. So I do think each of these mediums have a role. And, when we look at our paid, owned, shared types assets and earned assets, as time goes on, mobile and what we do with our tablets will be even more important. And it really depends on where that customer is using that device and what they want to use it for. We will definitely message to them on one of those devices. We know that we have an in-store network that actually is quite effective and quite efficient. So we're not walking away from it, but when you see the changes that have occurred over the last few years, it'd be crazy not to look at these other screens. It'd be incredibly efficient, but you still have somebody that needs to opt in.
Pete, I saw you react to that question, Well, how about you? If you're a CMO, mobile is just emerging as a video delivery system. I think it's fair to say that if you asked this audience where we are with mobile video delivery, we would all say it's fairly early days. But I don't think anyone doubts that mobile could be a big delivery system of video. Is mobile a friend or foe to digital place-based advertising?
Well, it's interesting you asked that, because as I was listening to your answer, I was thinking about, from CMO's perspective, they're going into more and more segments, they're changing their segmentation strategy, and they think of mobile, again, this is just my opinion, they think of mobile as everywhere the consumer, they have it with them all the time. So they run the risk, if it's not embedded or thought through for this area, that they could say, oh, we're going to put money there, because that's where the consumer's going to be all day, as opposed to in the elevators and this or that. So I think if it's not thought through, there's a risk. Again, that's not statistically valid, that's just my opinion. But I think there's also the geo-based and things like that can really impact to what you said to handle that. Because the question is someone going to be in the elevator looking at their iPad or this, or looking straight ahead? I don't know the answer, but that's something to think about.
Ben, you've been asked a specific question. Let's see if we can you can give us a quick answer. Can you give us some examples of successful digital place-based campaigns? Campaigns with an S.
From ones that I've run?
Yes, or ones you're now this is your third time up here, dude, so you're an expert.
Well, what I was going to say is, as I mentioned earlier, the only one I've actually run was the sports network,
yes,
the fitness network. So that was highly successful. I wish I had my slides from last time, because I could show you exactly how successful.
You have any other campaigns you admire? You're an expert. You've studied this medium. Any other campaigns that you think you hold up as an example?
This medium. Well, I will talk about some delivery systems I find effective, because as a consumer and as a marketer, I do try to pay attention to these. The elevator network I have found to be hugely engaging, especially here in the city where you have such massive buildings and you spend much of your commuting time in the elevator. I have found the gas station digital networks to be very engaging. That used to be such a downtime, especially the ones that don't have the little clip where you can keep the gas running. So for us who live out in the country of Connecticut practically, and actually drive places, that would be downtime. And then, of course, taxi TV when I'm here. So none of those have necessarily been applicable yet to feminine care. When I have $1 billion and can broadcast the super private nature of our product to the masses, maybe I will invest in those. But
Steve, how about a question to you about ad skipping? Okay, we have, Dish Network is out there talking about is it called the Hopper, I believe?
Right.
We certainly have seen the distribution of the DVR to the point where the idea of fast forwarding through ads is a concern. Why don't these folks talk more about the inability to skip? That Kirti kind of talked about it, right? The people they don't have a remote control in their hands for this, and they can't skip the ad. Is that one of the biggest selling benefits of this medium?
So I think it's a great selling benefit from the perspective that ads can't be skipped in this environment, and that the exposure, they're locked in, and that's great. I think selling against ad skipping in other environments is not necessarily where this audience wants to go, because it's not completely draining. The projections of what the DVR would do to live television viewing haven't played out, with the exception of a handful of areas. So I think selling against that isn't really the thing, versus just the getting the right people and having them locked in on this particular vehicle. So you're still largely selling against television or other medium.
And from a traditional media effectiveness standpoint, recency matters, and frequency matters. So we help complement some of the things that are going on in your traditional media plan.
That's particularly true of the smart network, right? Because you're right there at the point of sale.
Right.
Might not be as true, though, you could argue, in the gas station.
No, but again, if you have a specific campaign going on for a specific category, if your gas station network was built in as a complement to something else that you're doing in other traditional media, it definitely could work. It all depends on what your objectives are.
Right. And the gas station could be point of sale if it's something
Of
in the
course.
convenience
Of
store
course.
right there.
Of course.
Right.
But what you're not suggesting is that the only time to use this medium is for recency or for right before point of purchase.
No.
Right?
Right.
Okay. Couple more. We only have a few more minutes. You know what? I think we're going to just do one more. Let's just do one more quick question about the place-based, and we'll end with one question I want to ask each of you as we leave. But before we just a couple more questions on the platform. When you look at outdoor, and I'll go to you, Kirti. When you looked at this medium as an outdoor medium, tell me about what gets you most excited about the future of this medium. Are we at the middle of the story? I know we're not at the beginning anymore. I think we're past the beginning. But give these folks some views as to how to sell these programs in the future. You've been using this. What is it about these platforms that gotten you so excited?
Well, I think it's mainly, for us at least, the use of out-of-home has been, like I mentioned, elevators, and it really has been impactful for us. We were able to converge promoting our URL to video content, to pushing kind of contextually relevant news or quiz type of content within one experience, which, gosh, it's like a combination of everything, and promote our Twitter handle while we're at it. So it's really now, I think the next level is people being able to interact with the screens. Something that's worked well for us when kind of utilizing the traditional medium has been QR codes. And how do we kind of create more of an interaction with the screen environment on the go and on the fly without having to wait for a mobile device to maybe upload the right app to do it. So that would be an interesting kind of evolution, I think.
Ben, how about you? Give these folks some advice going forward. If you were to give some advice to the salespeople in this room going forward, give them some advice as to how they can to kind of take money from. Everybody seems these questions. Let's take money from television.
Yep.
Give them some advice how they do that.
Well, so the two halves of the coin are, one is I would say approach the media agency, get it on my plan. I mean, I think that is the easiest for me to say, is if it's brought to me, I can say yes. The reality is that, as I mentioned before, sometimes the programs do come through the brand team, and so there still is a use for contacting the brand team directly. I'm scared to open it up a little bit. But I've seen it happen a lot of wrong ways, and I've seen it happen sometimes the right way. I just say, always treat it like online dating. Not a copy-paste message that you send to everybody. Don't send me a novel. Send me something short, sweet, shows you know who I am and what I want, and how we can really work together, and make me want to find out more. So, come to me with a solution, not just something you're selling.
Got it. Okay, we're just about out of time. Last question of the panel. I'm going to start with you, James. What historical figure do you most relate to?
Wow. Historical figure that
Yes.
I most relate to.
What historical figure do you most identify with?
Lincoln?
I'm
Skip you,
stumped.
we'll go next.
Yeah.
Pete, what historical figure do you most identify with?
Monica Lewinsky? No, I'm kidding, just kidding. Oh my God. Just kidding. Identify with, someone I'd love to meet would be Martin Luther King Jr.
Fantastic. Ben,
Does Pete count as historical?
he does.
Evidently, in about 20 minutes.
Historical figure.
Lincoln, you're killing me here. I come back.
Wouldn't be James Bond or Ian Fleming.
No, I wish. I wish. Skip the time.
Steve,
Oh boy, I'm at a complete loss.
no historical
Too
figure.
lightning.
Kirti, how about you?
It's not really historical. It's from like the last few years. The girl with the dragon tattoo.
There you
She's
go.
badass.
Last chance for you.
I don't agree with his political views, but it would be Luis Muñoz Marin. So from Puerto Rico, came to the U.S., lived in the village, went back, established the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico with the U.S. So, really strengthened the ties of Puerto Rico to the U.S. I don't necessarily, I would hope Puerto Rico to be a state.
never
as
heard of
opposed to
that. That's fantastic.
But, just given my background, my parents came here, and, that's that's a historical figure I would relate to.
That'll be our last word. Thank you, everybody. Thank this panel for being such good sports. Thank you, everybody.